Hey guys, Dr. Dex here. Welcome to our new job site. We're in a city called Renton, Washington, and we're doing a cool little project. It's a freestanding deck. We're using precast pier blocks because there's a septic system, a lot of complicated and complex wiring and tanks and all that stuff, and we don't want to dig too deep and hit anything. Lots of drainage. This lawn had some negative drainage in it, so we're kind of getting through some challenges today. If you like what you see, don't forget to click that subscribe button and hit that bell icon to be notified when we're putting out fresh content. And as always, leave your comments below and we'll try to get back to you as soon as we can. All right, so as you can see, we have some of our precast footings installed, and these are a bigger footprint than what you'd normally see in a precast footing. So if you look right here, these are an 18-inch round, which means it gives you a better load capacity for pressure down. So that's what we're looking for. I don't like using 12-inch square pier blocks too much. I have used them in the past. These hold a lot better. Where I live, our frost depth is only 6 to 12 inches deep, so we don't really have to worry about digging super deep like you guys do in Canada or some of the people in the eastern, northeastern states and that kind of thing. I get messages all the time, hey doctor, you're so lucky. We have to dig 4 feet deep minimum for every single footing. I get you. If you don't like it over there, you don't like those footing depths, then move somewhere that you don't have to dig so deep. Unfortunately for us, that means it rains a lot instead. But we all have our pluses and our minuses, right? So basically, I'm going to show you the framing design of what we're building. So you can kind of see where these beams are over here. We have some really unique angles and curves. So that's my joist layout, my beam detail. So it kind of tells us how that has to be framed. And then this is what the deck is going to look like when it's laid. Joists are running this way, decking's running this way, and then we have a 20-foot circle that we're going to heat bend and put in here for interest, and then we're going to put lighting, in-light lighting all through here. And over here and in the stairs, there's like 28 lights total going into this deck. So should be a lot of fun. Obviously, the deck is so low to the ground, we have to really think about how we're going to wire this up before we do it. So that's going to be a super challenge, trying to get everything prepped and ready as we build this thing, because we can't get underneath the deck once the decking's laid. It's that low to the ground. And that was one of our biggest challenges so far. We had to dig out a lot of dirt yesterday. It took a lot. We had the mini skid steer here. It took a lot of time just to get the grade elevated. It doesn't look like we took out a lot of dirt, but wait till you see the pile that we ended up with. It took up a whole 16 by 12 foot tarp. Now that that's in, we are going to set some elevations. We're going to get some boards mounted to the concrete, start getting our beam set to height. And what's cool about these footing blocks is they're adjustable. So once we kind of have everything roughed in, then we can crank them up to exactly the height we want, and it'll help elevate the deck, and then it stays right there. So that's what we're doing on this particular job. Like I said, I don't use footing blocks a lot, but let me show you why we use footing blocks on this job. So one of my major concerns was we have all of this electrical. This is a high-end septic system. So normally we don't see stuff this complicated on a job site, and it just concerned me a little bit that if I started digging down, we may hit some wires. There's also a lot of ground drainage in here. Lots of perforated pipe. We ran into those quite a bit. We didn't destroy anything, but we did run into it because there's some negative slope in this yard. So the slope kind of comes back towards the house. So we had to cut into the dirt and make it so that we could clear our beam clearances and try not to destroy all of the drainage pipe that's in the ground. Then right here, you see all these are faux stones, and there's septic tank lids underneath some of these faux stones. And so we're not building over any of this. We're building around it, but it was just scary to me to try and dig deep in this area at all. So I just decided we're going to use these pier blocks instead. I explained to the client my concerns. He agreed with me, and these will hold plenty of weight. We're using 4 per 20 foot, and because of the thickness of this deck, we had to use a 4x6 beam and 2x6 joist. It's basically, we're shoehorning this thing into place. I'll show you right now, these beams are at elevation, and you can see how much space, how much clearance we have from the joist to the grass is like minimal. So that's why we had to take up so much dirt out of this space.
Well, we have a newfound appreciation for dudes who do concrete, because it is tough to level on top of dirt. So what Deckwiz and I are doing right now is these bricks, or these footings, need to go down. We need to be at 23 inches from the base of the concrete up to our level line there. So for the last 20 minutes we've been scooping in dirt, scooping out dirt, trying to make it flat, leveling these guys out so that way we can continue our beams over here and hopefully have this guy framed out as well. So we shall see how it goes. A lot of digging, you know how it is. No tricks today.
Drainage. More drainage. Flip it up.
Okay.
And I want you to put your end in the saddles.
Okay.
I want you to go all the way to the wall. Okay. We gotta put a 4x6 in here because we gotta be able to cantilever our joist past it so I can cut the curve. So kind of see how my tape is. I mean, I could sit here and paint, I could paint this out, and then I would need you to cut it all out and then go dump it over on the pile of dirt. But we have to be able to trench a beam in between here and here. You guys are right on the money. .90 degree angle, I don't think you're going to be able to use the ML24Zs. All right, so we have most of our beams placed, and now I'm starting to do the layout on our top of our beams, so where all of our joists will go. That usually takes a minute to get to. I'm working diligently on that. It takes, you know, a good half an hour, 45 minutes to lay out a complete joist layout on a deck. So once I have that finished, we have one other beam to set in over here. I'll probably have the guys start on that. I'll figure out, there's a reverse curve that kind of comes around this section of the deck over here. And and then we'll kind of figure that out from there. So that's where we're at right now. I think that we'll probably get the layout done, get all the beams will be set, and then we'll probably get some joists run today, but I'm not sure how many.
I'm using these LS 70Zs by Simpson Strong Tie. Putting 4 of them into this beam, connecting to this beam because it's always good to have a strong connection. And they have an S in the name because they're skewable. You can take one of these guys and actually bend them to fit the angle you want, which we use a lot because we do a lot of curved decks, and they work out pretty well. Man, it's hard to talk when it's all quiet.
Whoever did this concrete slab made it 1 inch out of square from the house, which I find kind of hard to believe, but I bet you if I took some measurements and measured this out right now, it'd be 1 inch out. We just pulled measurements off the foundation of the house and transferred them out 4.5, 50 inches from the house, and I just transferred my lines, and now I'm 1 inch out in 14 feet. So, which, since the decking's running this way, isn't that big a deal. I don't think anybody's ever gonna pick up on it. But now I just have to figure out how I'm gonna tie it all into my layout, because I've already got one beam laid out perfectly, and now I've got a mess to deal with. Hey guys, Dr. Decks here. Today we're deck board bending. We have our jigs set up. We have our HeatCon heating blankets all ready to go. We are warming up boards and creating all the curved decking that we need for our current deck build, which you've been following along. All right guys, come on. This board's ready to go. Let's get this done. So we have all of our deck boards bent that we need bent, and now we're making some fascia pieces. They're not fascia, they're actually part of the framing. We're actually pre-bending some of the curved boards that we need for our framing. So we're doing that next, and then I think we have 2 more boards to bend after this one, and then we'll have all of our bending complete, and then we're gonna finish out our day cleaning up, going to the dump, prepping, loading boards, strapping them all in, and balancing things on our head for several minutes. Let's do the gray side out. Flip it over. Yep. There you go. Okay, great. Okay, like this. Take it your way a little bit, Noah. Okay. Now finish it. Okay, so we have all of our boards bent now, all of the framing. We did not do our fascia boards because I feel like we have to do those on site and in place. So we did get our framing materials bent as well. And so those are like the outside rim pieces that we need to kind of create the shapes of this deck. So you'll see how those go in on Monday. We have a lot of special cuts to make, and then we'll be able to screw these on and kind of get a nice shape to form the deck with. Hey guys, Dr. Decks here today. Today we are blocking. We're finishing up our curves and adding some really nice swoops into this deck. So follow along and see how we do. So today, mostly we're just trying to button up for getting ready to install deck boards. We got the outside rim joists we're finishing up, and we're G-taping, and just miscellaneous stuff going on today. So follow along, see how we do. And we'll see if we might be laying some decking here later this week.
Little handy tool to have on site is a little heat gun. We use the Matavo HPT heat gun. So with the dampness of the joist, the G-tape doesn't like to stick. So we put it to about, say, 1,000, 1,100 degrees, and then just take, as you can see, this is a little lighter than how you have the damp side right here. And you take it and just brush it across here. Don't get too close where you're gonna hold fire or nothing like that. And we just dry it out. It takes a little bit more time, but as you see right here, we have a very nice bond with the joist, and get you waterproof.
I don't like this thing. It makes a high frequency, or it resonates a high frequency. So I have to do this. Every video, every clip.
I'm putting some flat blocking on this curve here because our curved board is going to sit over here, and without flat blocking we could screw into this joist and this joist, but we can't screw into here, and we don't want to have to guess where we can screw into. So I'm going to take some 2x10s, trace all this out, have it tight with the board, tight with our joist, and that way we can just lay this guy on top, and bada bing bada boom, you don't have to think about where you're screwing into. So.
All right, so I have this end of the deck all figured out as far as the curve, the swerve, how we have the outside rim joist on as well, which is PVC. And now Nas is putting in all the solid blocking, which is going to go in every single joist bay to create support for the alternate surface border that's going in, alternate color. So the field of this deck is Azek Coastline. The borders are Azek Dark Hickory. All right, so we've got all that completed. It's looking pretty good. And now I'm going to go to the other side of the deck, square it up, get all the ends figured out where they need to be cut, and then try to figure out the other curve I have to do on that side of the deck. So that's what's next. All right, so now I'm on the other side of the deck, and this side of the deck is actually square. So I'm going to square up to the house, figure out where this ends, because my first deck board is going to be installed from right here. And then we're going to lay the deck this way, and then we're going to flip it and lay it this other way. So I'm going to start my board, so I have a full width board, my dark hickory border, and then the coastline will go in after that. But I also have to figure out how this 5-foot radius is going to go. So that's kind of the next step in our evolution, is get this line justified, and then figure out the curve. So that's what's next. Why can't I just do normal decks like normal people do? It's always got to be something crazy, you know? I always think it's so cool on the design until I start building it, and then it's like, man, what are you thinking, dude? It's crazy, you know? I always have these moments in these builds where I think that everything's fine, and then all of a sudden I hit these roadblocks, you know, and and it's just kind of a mind-numbing thought session of what I need to do now to fix or fit or figure out what's next. It can be a little overwhelming, you know, when you think you got it and then you're like, oh, surprise, something else you got to deal with. And I always second guess myself sometimes when I'm doing this because it can be a challenge, kind of like right now. Hey guys, Dr. Decks here. We are pretty much done framing up this deck. We're ready for decking except for one thing, and that's lighting. We have some in-light lighting that we're installing. We have to kind of pre-install it because this deck is so low to the ground we wouldn't be able to get underneath it once it's built. So we're pre-wiring and pre-setting up for some wires to start putting in some low voltage LED into our inlays. Basically what we've done is we've put a spool of wire out in kind of a pathway of where we need to put all our lights. I've painstakingly laid out where all the lights need to be installed, and then because that takes a minute. I'm not going to really get into the layout part of that today, but maybe on another project. And then what we're doing is we're pre-hooking up. We've got this line energized with a low voltage transformer, and Enlight has these really cool weather resistant ways to hook up to the wire. And low voltage LED is cool because you don't really get voltage drop when you're running it. So what we're doing is we're installing these clips onto the line, and then we're pre-checking and making sure that this line is energized, which it is. Okay, so that's good. We have 12 of these to check around this perimeter, and then everything else can be done from the outside of the deck. But these 12 have to be installed as we're building the deck, or as we're installing the decking. So we got 2 done, we got another 10 to go. But then what we're gonna do is we're gonna tuck these kind of into the holes that they go into, but only so far. If these drop and we have the deck laid, there's no way for me to get to this wire and we'll be in trouble. So for now, that's how far we're gonna go. We're gonna get all these going, and then we can actually start installing some deck boards. So follow along and see how we do with that. And these are the Enlight Dr. Decks limited edition LED lights. They have a black bezel, and they have the Enlight logo on top, and they have my logo on the bottom, which is kind of cool. So check that out. And you can check them out at enlight.com, and they're also on social media, on Instagram and here on YouTube as well. All right, so here we have the part that attaches to one side of the wire. You can see it kind of has a groove and a threaded end, and there's an adapter clip so it'll fit onto 12 gauge wire. We're using 12 gauge low voltage wire, but you can go all the way up to 10 gauge. And then there's a screw cap right here, okay? And there's dielectric grease on the inside of this fitting that when it compresses, I don't know if you can see this, when this compresses, it squeezes grease into the connection for a long last, oh yeah. So, which is really cool. I don't know of many other fittings that do that, but what dielectric grease does is it keeps your wire from corroding. So even if it gets wet, it's gonna keep it from corroding. So when you compress these barbs onto the wire, the dielectric grease spits into there, and then you have a really nice tight connection. So I'm gonna do one for you from zero, just so you can kind of see how easy and quick Enlight is. So here's the wire sticking out. All right, I'm gonna put my adapter right on top of the wire, and you can see there's grooves on the inside of there, okay? And then there's a groove on both sides of this adapter. So those really fit right in where they're supposed to, right inside the clip. And then this is just a threaded cap, and you just screw this on, and sometimes you'll hear it click. There it goes. Now the dielectric grease is released. Now everything's nice and tight. We should have a positive connection. Let's hook it up real quick and see. Yep, there we go. We're energized. Now that we're there, just gonna stuff this through the hole. And we had to drill some decent sized holes. They're probably 1 3/4. I'm just glad we had a nice Forstner bit for that. So I'm leaving this exposed. As we lay our deck boards, I will cut a hole for this to stick out. And then once we cut away the center portion, because we're doing a circle inlay in the middle of this deck. So that'll be kind of a cool feature. And then inside the dark hickory border, that's part of the circle inlay, then we'll actually finalize where exactly we want to put these lights. But what I did was I oversized this hole. This is about a 1-inch light, but I made an 1 3/4 hole because this light is going to stick down further than our decking. Where this gray area is going to hang down below our deck board. So because I didn't know exactly where that's going to go, I wanted to have about 3/4 of an inch of play so that I know when I install this, this will have some room, wiggle room, so it'll work out. A little pre-planning. So before we started laying deck boards, we took some silver Sharpies and we did a layout around the entire circle so I could figure out where to put my screws, because we have a lot of hidden fasteners we're using in this deck, but we're also using Fasten Master Cortex stainless steel screws, and then we're going to cork a bunch of areas as well. So I kind of have this pattern of screws now that I can see, and that's how I'm going to lay out and figure out where to cut all of my boards in. You can kind of see the pattern right here in the deck, and I just need to be in the center of that with my alternate colored curved surface border. So that's how I'm figuring out where to put my cuts and how to make the cuts. Hey guys, Dr. Decks here. Today it's all about surface borders and steps. All right, so the guys are over on this side of the deck. They're framing up a couple of stairs. They're wider stairs, so they're more like platforms than a staircase. But we're getting those framed in, and they're digging a little dirt and putting in a little bit of concrete to support the staircase. So basically what we're doing is we have 2 posts in the ground at the end of the deck. We are hanging our staircase off of that. And then we're putting in 2 posts in concrete to hang for the next landing. And then we'll hang that first step to those, and then below that we'll attach the bottom stair, and then we'll come out and we'll dig 2 more holes for the bottom step. So it's a little bit more digging and pouring than you would normally do on a staircase, but because the stairs are so raked out, you have to do it that way to make sure that they're supported properly. And while the guys are doing that, I'm over here sanding and fitting and getting ready to install some of our curved surface borders that we heat bent last week and start installing some of the inlight lighting that's going to be going into the pattern of the deck. So that's what I'm up to. Follow along and see how we do. Every cut, we put end grain solution on every single cut. It protects the wood from bugs and preserves the wood for a longer life.
Why did you need to cut that?
Oh, because there is a drainage pipe in the way. It's up against the foundation of the house. It's for all the gutter drainage system. And so it's in our way. I can't cut the pipe. I can't move the pipe. So I have to modify our frame instead. So that's what I did. Now I can get back to what I'm trying to do over here.
We're just G-taping our 4x6 posts that we're going to land in our concrete, because even though we put Q-Tech on the end of each cut, adding G-tape is just extra protection, so this side's going to stay in the concrete and it'll be impervious to water and rot and all that. So hopefully it means for a longer lasting deck.
Is this hard to do?
Yes. It's very time-consuming, nerve-wracking, and mind-numbing. But when it's all done, it's very rewarding.
Putting the concrete in. By doing this, I'm going to put one 4x6 here, one 4x6 there. And what you didn't see yesterday, because our studio man wasn't here yesterday, is I put two 4x6s under there, and they're in concrete as well. So this box frame step is tied into that. So then our next box frame step will be tied into these 4x6s, and it's going to fit right underneath this 2x8. So that way everything's super solid. And yeah, we do everything solid here. Solid.
So I have 4 lights that I've already predetermined are like gonna, let's just call them north, south, east, and west. And so once I figure out those 4 points, then I measure across from like north to west, and I take that and I average. Since I have 3 spaces, what I'm trying to do is equalize each quadrant. So then I took 3 tape measures and I set one up on the middle of the light here. And then I took one and I set it up in the middle of the light here. And then I figured out my average of measurement. It's around 59.5 inches in between lights. 59 to 59.5 is what I'm shooting for. And that's what I got. And that's how I figured out the average on a circle, was actually to make straight measurements, and where those 2 points cross, when the 59.5 lines cross, that's where I make my mark. and then that's where I was able to put the light. Now, because our frame isn't 100% square to a circle, it's close, but it's not 100%, I had to guess on the framing where to put the lights, and I had to pre-wire everything, and now I have to hook up all the lights before I can install the borders. So I might have to make some small adjustments here and there in the blocking to drill an additional hole if things don't fit properly. So I think I've adjusted for that, but we're just gonna have to wait and see. All right, so I have one of my inlay boards is done. It's all cut and filed and ready to rock. All the lights are installed. They all fit. Now I'm going to start installing this one piece so that I can continue working around the circle. The next two pieces I have are partially installed. They have 2 of the 3 lights installed, and the 4th piece I haven't cut or done anything to yet. But before I continue going around the circle, I kind of need to lock this first piece in. So that's what I'm going to do now, is screw this all off, and then it'll be ready for Cortex, and then I can continue on with the next 2 pieces and get those averaged out, and then get the 4th piece up here and kind of get it on lockdown as well. Hey guys, drdecks here. We are almost finished with our current deck project. I have one more piece of decking to install. I got to screw this one in. I just wrestled with this thing for about 35 minutes, trying to make the gutter fit back into its old position. I think we're very close. So I'm gonna cut this last piece in, get this anchored down, and then the guys are cleaning up right now. Here we go. Alright guys, so we just finished up this deck. We are done. Your prescription has been filled. Check that out, that hashtag out on our Instagram page. You'll find a lot of completed deck projects under that hashtag. Cal, put it on the screen. Alright, so let's go over this deck really quick and I'll kind of explain what it is, what products are in it, how we did things, and we'll go from there. Unique design. Client didn't want a square. He kind of wanted something to fit the landscape. He had a slight swerve in his retaining wall, so we kind of came up with doing a curved area over here next to the retaining wall, and then we translated that into a 20-foot circle that is an inlay through the middle of the deck. You saw from our videos that takes a lot longer to prepare and install than if we just laid decking. So there's a lot that had to go into it. Some of the features of this deck include TimberTech AZEK decking. The field boards are called Coastline. It's a grooved board, and we use Fasten Master's 5-shot fusion lock system to put it down. In spots where we couldn't use a fusion lock, we also used their stainless steel and Cortex, happen to have a few on me, screwing and plugging system, and that's how we anchored this deck together. Even if we're using their hidden clips, we still pinned each end of the deck so to minimize expansion and contraction. Probably the coolest features on this deck are the curves. Like I said before, we have a 20-foot diameter circle that is highlighted in a dark hickory. So the field color is Coastline. All the trim is TimberTech AZEK Dark Hickory. And then we use the 7 1/4 inch multi-width fascia boards all the way around the deck. And then we strategically placed in-light lighting, low voltage LED lighting, in the surface of the 20-foot diameter circle, and then in various parts of the fascia where we wanted to highlight areas where you can just step right off the deck. This deck was really low to the ground. It had its framing challenges. We had to move a lot of dirt just to build this deck this low to the ground and be able to make it sturdy and structural. So just something you want to think about if you're going to be tackling your own deck project someday is elevation. This one was really low to the ground, and it cost us an extra day in work just to get the deck down to that level. So on the far end where the ground drops off, we have a couple of wide stairs that we installed, and the surface borders go along they chase the entire edge of the upper deck, and then the stairs, we did not do that because I just felt for the amount of time and effort that we'd have to put into it, we didn't charge for it. So we were on a budget, and we usually are, so we love to keep going and going and going and creating all these amazing spaces, but you got to draw the line somewhere. So that's where we drew ours, and I had a few questions about that, so I hope that answers that. Everything is fit and finished. There's no exposed screws anywhere on this deck. Everything's hidden fastened. Really proud of that fact. And all the wires and lighting and everything is tucked up and stapled tight underneath the deck. So this one's a wrap. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you like what you saw, don't forget to click that subscribe button and hit the bell icon to be notified when we're putting out fresh content. Don't forget to check out that hashtag deckboard bending. Check out the company called HeatCon that we use to heat bend our deck boards. And thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.